I don't care about her record. I said, handle it. The room smelled like hand sanitizer and old flowers. Victoria Ames stood at the seventh floor window of Grady Piedmont Regional Medical Center. Her reflection stared back at her. Perfect hair, perfect suit, perfect posture. Below her, a nurse was cleaning out her locker. That nurse had no idea that in time, Victoria would be on her knees in this same hospital, begging that woman to save her daughter's life. But right now, in this moment, all Victoria felt was power, and she liked it. Now, before I tell you what happened next, if you believe that how you treat people always comes back around, stay with me, because what happened to this woman over time, it will stay with you long after this story ends. Now let me take you back to where it all began. She had one card left to play, and she didn't even hesitate. Victoria Ames was not a doctor. She was not a nurse. She had never drawn blood or read a chart or held a dying man's hand in the morning, but she controlled the money, and in a hospital, the person who controls the money controls everything. Victoria sat on the board of directors at Grady Piedmont Regional Medical Center, one of the largest hospitals in Atlanta. She had earned that seat, fought for it, clawed her way from a tiny apartment in East Point to a corner office with a view of the Midtown skyline. Her parents came from a village. Her father drove a taxi. Her mother cleaned office buildings until her knees gave out. They gave everything so Victoria could become somebody. And she did. She ran the Ames Health Foundation. She raised millions for cancer research. And she sat on boards. She wore Chanel to meetings and Dior to galas. People respected her. People feared her. And Victoria, she had stopped noticing the difference a long time ago. Her husband Damon told her once. They were eating dinner at their home in Buckhead, just the two of them. Selena was upstairs studying. "Vic," he said, "you don't talk to people anymore. You talk at them." Victoria didn't even look up from her phone. "That's how things get done, Damon." He set down his fork. "That's how things get broken." She didn't hear him. She was already reading an email about the hospital's budget. Damon shook his head. He picked up his plate and walked to the kitchen alone. That was the kind of woman Victoria had become. Not evil, not cruel on purpose, just so far above everyone that she forgot what it felt like to be below. And that is the most dangerous kind of person, because they never see the damage until it's too late. At the hospital, Victoria walked the halls like she owned them. She didn't say good morning to the nurses. She didn't learn the janitors' names. She walked past them like they were furniture. The doctors smiled when she entered a room, not because they liked her, because her signature approved their funding, and everyone knew, if you got on Victoria Ames's bad side, your career at Grady Piedmont was over. Everyone knew that. Everyone except one person, a nurse named Lena Brooks. She wasn't trying to be brave. She was just trying to do her job. But sometimes, that's the thing that gets you fired. Lena Brooks had been a nurse at Grady Piedmont. She was slim, quiet, the kind of woman who entered a room so softly you didn't notice her until she was already fixing something. She grew up in Decatur. Her mother, Aisha, was a retired school teacher who raised Lena and her younger brothers alone after their father passed. Aisha had one rule in that house: treat every person like they matter, because they do. Lena carried that rule everywhere, to school, to nursing school, to every shift at the hospital. She knew every patient's name on her floor. She knew their children's names. She knew who was scared of needles and who needed the lights left on at night and who just wanted someone to sit with them before surgery. The other nurses noticed. Paula Langley, the head nurse, pulled Lena aside one morning. "Brooks, you've been here and I've never gotten a single complaint about you. Not one. Do you know how rare that is?" Lena smiled softly. "I just try to do what my mother taught me." Paula nodded. "Well, whatever she taught you, it's working. Keep it up." Lena wasn't loud. She didn't post about her work on social media. She didn't seek praise or promotion. She just showed up every shift, every time. She was the kind of person who held the hospital together, and nobody even knew it until the day she held the wrong door. It was an afternoon. Victoria was rushing down the hallway on the 7th floor. She was late for a board meeting. Her heels clicked on the tile like gunshots. Her phone was pressed to her ear. Her assistant was talking about donor numbers. Lena was coming through a set of double doors with a cart of medical supplies. She saw Victoria approaching and held the door open. "Here you go, ma'am." Victoria walked through without looking at her, without pausing, without a nod. The cart caught on the doorframe. One of the supply bins tipped and spilled. Gauze and gloves scattered across the floor. Lena knelt down and started picking them up. Victoria stopped walking. She turned around, not because she wanted to help, because something had splashed on her shoe. She looked down. A small bottle of saline solution had rolled across the floor and bumped against her heel. A tiny drop had landed on her beige Louboutin. Victoria stared at the drop. Then she stared at Lena. "What is this?" Lena looked up from the floor. She saw the drop on the shoe. Her stomach tightened. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. It's just saline. It won't stain. I can—" "Do you know how much these shoes cost?" Lena blinked. I'm sorry. It was an accident. The cart caught on the—" "I don't care what caught on what. You should be more careful." Lena stood up slowly. She kept her voice calm, respectful, the way her mother taught her. "You're absolutely right. I apologize." But something about the way Lena looked at her bothered Victoria. It wasn't rude. It wasn't disrespectful. It was just steady. Lena wasn't afraid of her, and Victoria was not used to that. She turned and walked away, but she looked back once. Lena was on her knees again, picking up supplies, quiet, unbothered. Victoria's jaw tightened. She didn't know why that moment stayed with her, but it did. Nobody saw it coming, except the one person who had already made up her mind. It happened. Victoria's daughter, Selena, came to the hospital for a routine checkup. She was smart, sweet, studying pre-med. She wanted to be a pediatrician. Selena was nothing like her mother. She said please and thank you. She smiled at strangers. She got that from Damon. Lena was assigned to Selena's intake, routine blood work, vitals, nothing complicated. Selena sat on the exam table and looked nervous. She didn't like needles. "Is it going to hurt?" she asked. Lena smiled. "A little pinch, that's it. You'll forget about it in seconds." "Promise?" "Promise." Lena drew the blood quickly, cleanly. Selena barely flinched. "See?" Lena said. "All done." Selena laughed. "Okay, that wasn't bad at all. You're really good at this." "Practice," Lena said. "You get gentle, or you get yelled at." They both laughed. That's when Victoria walked in. She had come straight from a luncheon. She was wearing a cream Valentino blazer, gold earrings. Her presence filled the room like a change in air pressure. "Selena, are you done?" "Almost, Mom. This nurse is amazing. I barely felt anything." Victoria glanced at Lena. Her eyes narrowed. She recognized her, the shoe incident, the saline drop, the woman who knelt on the floor but didn't look afraid. "You," Victoria said. Lena looked up. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Ames." "I didn't ask for you to be assigned to my daughter." The room went still. Selena looked confused. "Mom, what are you—" "Selena, I'll handle this." Victoria didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her tone was a blade wrapped in silk. "I want a different nurse for my daughter's care, immediately." Lena's heart was beating fast, but her voice stayed steady. "Mrs. Ames, the intake is already complete. Everything went perfectly. If there's any concern—" "My concern is that I didn't approve of you being in this room. That is enough." Selena touched her mother's arm. "Mom, stop. She was great. She didn't do anything wrong." Victoria pulled her arm away, gently but firmly. She looked at Lena one more time. "I want to speak with your supervisor, now." Lena swallowed. "Of course, Mrs. Ames." She walked out of the room. Her hands were steady, but inside, something was cracking. Later, Victoria was in Robert Tate's office. Robert was the hospital's CEO. He had held that position. He was calm, professional. and he owed a significant portion of the hospital's funding to the Ames Health Foundation. Robert, I want that nurse removed from my daughter's care, permanently. Robert leaned forward. Victoria, Nurse Brooks has an exemplary record. No complaints. High patient satisfaction. She's one of our best. I didn't ask for her resume. I said I want her removed. Can you tell me what happened? Victoria paused. What could she say? That the nurse held a door? That saline touched her shoe? That the woman looked at her without flinching? She couldn't say any of that. Not out loud, because out loud it sounded like nothing. So she said something worse. She was rough with my daughter during the blood draw. Selena was uncomfortable. I don't trust her competence. It was a lie, a clean, deliberate, calculated lie. Robert's face tightened. He didn't believe it. He had seen Lena's file. He had seen her patient reviews. But Victoria Ames's foundation donated millions to this hospital. Millions. That's the weight that sat on his desk in that moment. I'll look into it, he said. Don't look into it. Handle it. She stood up, straightened her blazer, and walked out. By the end of the day, Lena Brooks was called into Paula Langley's office. Paula couldn't look her in the eye. Brooks, I don't know how to say this. Then just say it. The board has requested your removal from the 7th floor, effective immediately. Lena didn't move. Removal for what? A complaint was filed regarding a patient interaction. By who? Paula hesitated. I can't disclose. It was Mrs. Ames, wasn't it? Silence. Lena's voice shook for the first time. Paula, you know me. You said yourself. Not one complaint, not one. Paula's eyes were wet. I know. Then how can you... It's not up to me. Lena, I'm sorry. It came from above. Above meant the board. Above meant money. Above meant Victoria. Lena stood up slowly. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She looked at Paula with eyes that held time of early mornings and late nights, and patients who called her by name and families who hugged her in the hallway. I understand, she said, but she didn't. Not really. She cleaned out her locker that afternoon, 7th floor, the same floor where she had comforted hundreds of patients, the same floor where she had held hands and changed bandages and whispered, "You're going to be okay?" So many times that the words lived in her bones. She carried a small cardboard box to the elevator, inside it, her extra scrubs, a photo of her mother, a thank you card from a patient's daughter. The elevator doors closed, and just like that, Lena Brooks was gone. She thought firing that nurse would make her feel powerful. It did, for a moment. Victoria didn't think about Lena after that day. That's the thing about people with power. They make decisions that destroy lives, and then they go to dinner. Victoria went to a fundraiser that evening. She wore emerald green. She gave a speech about compassion in healthcare. People applauded. Someone called her a pillar of the community. She smiled. She went home. She kissed Selena goodnight. She climbed into bed next to Damon. How was your day? He asked. Productive, she said. She turned off the light. That was it. That was the entire weight of what she had done, reduced to one word, productive. But the hospital felt the weight. The patients on the 7th floor felt it. Mrs. Donovan, recovering from hip surgery, pressed her call button the next morning. No one came for minutes. When she finally saw a nurse, it wasn't Lena. Where's the young lady? Mrs. Donovan asked. The quiet one. She always came right away. She's no longer on this floor, ma'am. Mrs. Donovan frowned. Why not? No one answered. Mr. Owens, diabetic, always anxious before his insulin check, sat in his bed and waited. Lena used to talk to him about his grandchildren while she checked his levels. She knew their names. The new nurse didn't talk. She checked the numbers and left. Mr. Owens stared at the ceiling. Paula Langley noticed the difference. Complaint numbers on the 7th floor went up. Patient satisfaction scores dipped. Nothing catastrophic, nothing that would make the news, just a quiet absence, like a room that lost its warmth. and nobody could figure out why. Paula knew why. She sat in her office one evening and stared at Lena's empty file folder. She thought about calling her, apologizing, explaining. But what could she say? I let them fire you because I was afraid to fight for you. That's not an apology. That's a confession. So she said nothing. And Lena rebuilt. She spent time at her mother's house in Decatur. Aisha didn't ask questions at first. She just made jollof rice and set it on the table and sat with her daughter in the quiet. Lena told her everything, the door, the shoe, the lie, the firing. Aisha listened. She didn't interrupt. When Lena was done, her mother reached across the table and held her hand. Do you remember what I always told you? Lena nodded. Her eyes were wet. Treat every person like they matter, because they do. I did that. Mama, I did everything right and they still… I know, and it hurts. But listen to me, Lena. Aisha squeezed her hand. When someone punishes you for being good, that is not your burden. That is theirs. They will carry it. Maybe not today, but they will carry it. Lena wiped her eyes. What do I do now? Aisha smiled. You do what you've always done. You help people. Lena found a job at Mercy Hill Free Clinic. It was a small clinic in South Atlanta that served uninsured patients. The pay was less than half of what she made at Grady, Piedmont. The hours were longer, the building was old, the supplies were thin, but the patients needed her. And Lena needed to be needed. She showed up on her first day in fresh scrubs. She introduced herself to every patient in the waiting room. She learned their names. Mercy Hill's patient satisfaction scores were the highest they'd ever been. Nobody wrote about it in the newspaper. Nobody gave a speech about it at a gala. But every person who sat in that waiting room knew that someone cared about them, and that someone was Lena. If this story is already pulling at you, stay with me, because what happens next changed everything. For Lena, for Victoria, and for a girl who had no idea her life was about to depend on a woman her mother threw away. The phone call lasted seconds, and it ended Victoria's world. After Lena was fired, Selena Ames collapsed. She was at home, a morning. She had been feeling tired. She thought it was stress from medical school. She had been studying too hard, not sleeping enough, not eating right. She came downstairs for breakfast. Damon was making eggs. Victoria was reading the paper. Selena reached for a glass of orange juice, and then her legs gave out. She hit the kitchen floor. The glass shattered. Orange juice and broken glass spread across the tile. Selena… Damon dropped the pan and ran to her. Victoria was already on her feet. Selena, baby, what happened? Selena's eyes were open, but they were unfocused. Her breathing was shallow. I can't feel my legs. Mom? Those words, 6 words, they split Victoria's world in half. The ambulance came. They took Selena to Grady, Piedmont, the same hospital where her mother sat on the board, the same hospital where a nurse once drew her blood so gently she barely felt it. The doctors ran tests, blood panels, MRIs, CT scans. They ran everything. They sat down with Victoria and Damon in a private consultation room. He didn't smile. Mr. and Mrs. Ames, your daughter has a rare autoimmune condition that is attacking her nervous system. It's aggressive, and it's progressing faster than we'd like. Victoria's mouth opened. No sound came out. Damon grabbed the arm of his chair. What does that mean? What do we do? The doctor exhaled. There is a treatment. It's a specialized procedure. Very few doctors in the country can perform it. We've identified the leading specialist. Then get him, Victoria said. Her voice was sharp, commanding, the boardroom voice. Money is not an issue. Whatever it costs, whoever it is, get them. The doctor nodded slowly. His name is Dr. Kareem Bowen. He's based in Baltimore. He's agreed to come to Atlanta to evaluate Selena. Good. When? He arrives soon. Good. Victoria stood up. She was shaking, but she locked her jaw and straightened her spine, because that's what she always did. She turned her fear into control. Whatever he needs, he gets Whatever the hospital needs to prepare, make it happen. I will call Robert personally. She walked out of the room. Her heels clicked on the tile. But this time, they didn't sound like power. They sounded like a woman trying not to fall apart. That night, Victoria sat in Selena's hospital room. The monitors beeped softly. Selena was asleep. Her face was peaceful. She looked so young, so fragile. Victoria held her daughter's hand, and for the first time she didn't check her phone. She didn't answer emails. She didn't think about budgets or foundations or board meetings. She just sat there, and she prayed. "Please," she whispered. "Please don't take my daughter. I'll do anything." Damon stood in the doorway. He watched his wife. He hadn't seen her like this, stripped of armor, just a mother, terrified. He walked over and put his hand on her shoulder. She reached up and held it. They didn't speak. Some moments are too heavy for words. He had one requirement, and it was going to break her. Dr. Kareem Bowen arrived. He was tall, silver-haired, calm in the way that only people who have held life in their hands can be calm. He had performed this procedure times worldwide, successes, losses. He didn't guarantee outcomes. He guaranteed effort. He reviewed Selena's case. He examined her. He studied every scan, every blood panel, every chart note. Then he sat down with Victoria, Damon, and Robert Tate in the hospital conference room. "I can perform the procedure," he said. "Selena is a good candidate, but the window is narrow. We need to move." Victoria exhaled. "Fine, whatever you need, name it." Dr. Bowen leaned back in his chair. He folded his hands. "The procedure requires a specialized nursing protocol during and after the operation. The recovery is delicate. One mistake in post-operative care, and the treatment fails. I need a nurse I trust. Someone with specific training. Someone I've worked with before." "We have excellent nurses here," Robert said. "I'm sure you do, but I need one specific nurse. I've worked with her before, once in Baltimore, once at a Mercy clinic in South Atlanta where I volunteered. She is the best post-operative care nurse I have ever worked with. Her precision is extraordinary. Her patient manner is flawless. I will not perform this procedure without her on my team." Victoria nodded impatiently. "Fine, who is she? We'll hire her, contract her, whatever it takes." Dr. Bowen looked at Victoria. His gaze was steady. "Her name is Lena Brooks." The room went silent. Not the polite kind of silent, the kind where the air changes, where gravity shifts, where someone's past reaches forward and grabs them by the throat. Victoria's face didn't move, but something behind her eyes crumbled. Robert Tate looked at the table. He couldn't look at Victoria. Damon looked at his wife. He didn't know the name, but he saw her reaction, and he knew something was very wrong. "Vic," Damon said, "what is it?" She didn't answer. Dr. Bowen continued. "Miss Brooks used to work at this hospital. I understand she left. I need her brought back temporarily for the duration of the procedure and the recovery period." Robert cleared his throat. "Dr. Bowen, Miss Brooks's departure from this hospital was complicated. I don't care about the politics. I care about the patient. Lena Brooks is the nurse I need. Without her, I will not operate. That is my condition, and it is non-negotiable." He said it calmly, without aggression, without threat, just fact, the way a man says something when he knows exactly what he's worth, and exactly what he will not compromise on. Victoria sat in that chair, and felt the walls closing in, the nurse she had fired over a drop of saline on a shoe, the nurse she had lied about to get removed. The nurse she had erased from this hospital without a second thought. That nurse was now the only person in the world who could help save her daughter's life. Fate doesn't knock. It walks right through the door you thought you locked. "I'll handle it," Victoria said. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Dr. Bowen nodded and stood. "I need her here within hours. The clock is already running." He shook Damon's hand. He nodded to Robert, and he walked out. The door closed, and Victoria Ames sat in that conference room, completely still, for the first time in her life, with absolutely no idea what to do. She had destroyed this woman's career. Now she had to ask her for a miracle. Victoria didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Damon was beside her, but she felt 1,000 miles away from everything. She kept hearing Dr. Bowen's voice, Lena Brooks, 2 words, and they unraveled everything. In the morning, she got up. She went to her home office. She sat in the dark. She opened her laptop and searched the name, Mercy Hill Free Clinic, Nurse Lena Brooks. There she was, in a photo on the clinic's website, standing with a group of volunteers, smiling, wearing simple scrubs, surrounded by patients. She looked happy. Victoria stared at that photo for a long time. She thought about what she had done. Not the sanitized version, she told herself. The real version, the ugly one. A nurse held a door for her. Supplies fell. A drop of saline touched her shoe. And because that nurse looked at her without fear, Victoria decided to erase her. When she lied to the CEO, she called it a competence issue. She used her money, her name, her power to take away a woman's career, and she never thought about it again, not once, until now. Victoria closed the laptop. She put her head in her hands, and she did something she hadn't done. She cried, not the delicate kind, the ugly kind, the kind that comes from a place so deep you didn't even know it existed, the kind that shakes your whole body and doesn't stop. She cried because her daughter was sick. She cried because the one person who could help was the person she had destroyed, and she cried because for the first time she saw herself clearly, and she didn't like what she saw. Victoria drove to Mercy Hill Free Clinic. She didn't send an assistant, she didn't call ahead, and she didn't bring a lawyer or a checkbook. She went alone. She parked in the small lot. The clinic was a converted church building. The paint was peeling on one side. The waiting room was full. Victoria walked in. She was wearing a simple black dress, no jewelry except her wedding ring, no heels, flat shoes. The receptionist looked up. "Can I help you?" "I need to speak with Nurse Lena Brooks, please." "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but it's urgent, please." The receptionist looked at her for a moment, then picked up the phone. Lena walked into the small hallway. She stopped when she saw Victoria. The 2 women stood apart. The hallway was narrow. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead. Lena's face didn't change. She didn't gasp. She didn't flinch. She just looked at Victoria with those same steady eyes, the same eyes that had bothered Victoria. "Mrs. Ames," Lena said, neutral, professional. "Miss Brooks." Victoria's voice cracked on the second syllable. She hadn't expected that. Silence. "Can we talk?" Victoria asked. "Please." Lena studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. "There's a bench outside." They walked through a side door to a small courtyard. A single tree gave shade over an old wooden bench. They sat. Victoria stared at her hands. She had given speeches to thousands of people. She had argued with senators and CEOs and billionaires, but she couldn't find words for this. Lena waited, patient, the way she waited with every patient, the way she was built. Finally, Victoria spoke. "My daughter is sick." Lena's expression shifted, just slightly, a softening around the eyes. "Selena," Victoria looked up, surprised. "You remember her name?" "I remember every patient's name." That sentence hit Victoria harder than she expected, because she couldn't remember the name of the nurse she had fired. She had to look it up. She remembered. Victoria forgot. And that gap between them said everything. "She has a rare autoimmune condition." Victoria continued. Her voice was shaking now. She couldn't control it. "It's attacking her nervous system. There's a specialist, Dr. Karim Bowen. He can perform a procedure that might save her, but he has one condition." She looked at Lena. "He needs you." Lena didn't speak. "He says you're the best post-operative care nurse he's ever worked with. He won't perform the procedure without you. He was very clear about that." Lena looked at the tree, at the leaves moving in the wind. So, you need me? Lena said softly. Yes. The same way your patients needed me, before you had me fired. The words landed like stones dropped into still water. Victoria's chin trembled. She pressed her lips together to hold herself. Yes, she whispered. The same way. More silence. I know what I did to you, Victoria said. I know it was wrong. I know there's no excuse. You held a door for me, and I punished you for it. I lied about you. I used my position to take your career, and I didn't think about it, not once, not until last night. Her voice broke completely. I sat at my computer in the morning, and I searched your name, and I saw you at this clinic, helping people who have nothing, and I realized that I took a good person and threw her away because my shoe got wet, because you looked at me like I was just a person, and I couldn't handle that. Tears were running down Victoria's face. She wasn't wiping them. I'm not here to offer you money. I'm not here to threaten you or pressure you. I'm here because my daughter is dying, and the doctor says you are the only one who can help, and I know, I have no right to ask you for anything. She looked at Lena, but I am asking. Lena sat on that bench. The wind moved through the courtyard. A bird sang somewhere in the tree above them. She thought about the day she cleaned out her locker, the elevator doors closing, the time at her mother's house, the tears she cried into her pillow when she thought Aisha couldn't hear. And she thought about the job she lost, the pay cut, the doubt. She thought about all of it. And then she thought about Selena, sitting on an exam table, scared of needles, laughing when the blood draw didn't hurt. Promise, Selena had said. Promise, Lena had answered. Lena looked at Victoria. What time does Dr. Bowen need me at the hospital? Victoria's breath caught. Her hand flew to her mouth. Her shoulders shook. Lena didn't touch her. She didn't hug her. That wasn't what this moment needed. She just sat there, steady, present, the way she always was. She walked back into the hospital that fired her, and she didn't walk in for them. She walked in for a girl who once asked her to promise. Morning, Lena Brooks walked through the front doors of Grady Piedmont Regional Medical Center. She was wearing clean scrubs. Her ID badge was temporary. Her name was printed in fresh ink. The security guard looked at her badge and nodded. Welcome back. She walked to the elevator, pressed 7. The doors closed. When they opened on the 7th floor, Paula Langley was standing there. Her eyes were red. She had been waiting. Brooks! Paula. Paula opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I'm sorry. I should have fought for you. I should have. I know, but that's not why I'm here today. Paula nodded. She wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders. Selena's in room 714. Dr. Bowen is prepping. He's expecting you. Then let's go. Mahar Sassam. They walked together down the hallway, past the nurse's station, past the rooms where Lena used to work, past the spot where a supply cart once caught on a door frame and a bottle of saline changed 2 lives forever. Lena didn't. Look at that spot. She looked straight ahead. She had a patient to save. The procedure took hours. Dr. Kareem Bowen led the surgical team. Lena was in the room for every second, monitoring vitals, adjusting drip rates, watching the numbers that told the story of a young woman's nervous system fighting to survive. There was a moment. In. Selena's blood pressure dropped. The monitors screamed. The surgical team tensed. Lena moved before anyone spoke. She adjusted the IV, checked the line, recalibrated the dosage. Her hands were fast, precise, absolutely steady. Dr. Bowen glanced at her. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. He nodded once. The blood pressure stabilized. The room exhaled. In the waiting room, Victoria sat in a plastic chair. Damon was beside her. He held her hand. She held his so tight her knuckles were white. She had sat in this hospital times, in leather chairs, in corner offices, in boardrooms with catered lunches, always in control, always above. Now she sat in a plastic chair in a waiting room, below everything, powerless, praying. and the person she was praying for was working upstairs, the person she had tried to erase. Hours. Every minute felt like time, and in the afternoon, Dr. Bowen walked into the waiting room. Victoria stood up so fast she knocked her purse off the chair. He looked at her, and he smiled. The procedure was successful. Selena is stable. Her neural responses are already improving. She's going to need time of careful post-operative care, but the prognosis is strong. Victoria's legs buckled. Damon caught her. She pressed her face into his chest and wept. "Thank you," she kept saying. "Thank you. Thank you." Dr. Bowen held up his hand. "Don't thank me alone. Thank Nurse Brooks." When Selena's pressure dropped, Lena caught it before anyone else in the room. If she had been slower, we would be having a very different conversation right now. Seconds. That's how thin the line was between life and loss. And on that line stood a nurse who had every reason in the world to say no. Evening, Victoria walked into Selena's recovery room. The monitors beeped softly and steadily. Selena was awake, drowsy, pale, but alive. Her eyes were open. Her fingers were moving. Lena was there, checking the charts, adjusting the pillow. When Selena saw Lena, she smiled. "Hey," Selena whispered. "I know you." Lena leaned down. "You do? You're the nurse who promised it wouldn't hurt." Lena's eyes glistened. "I remember." "You were right," Selena said. "It didn't hurt." Lena squeezed her hand gently. "You're going to be just fine." Victoria stood in the doorway. She watched this moment. The nurse and the daughter, the gentleness, the care. She thought about all the times she had walked past nurses in this hallway without seeing them, without knowing them, without understanding that they were the ones who held this place together. She thought about power, real power, not the kind that comes from money or titles or boardroom seats. The kind that comes from choosing grace when you have every right to choose revenge. The kind that kneels beside a scared girl and says, "I promise." The kind that walks back into a building that threw you away and saves a life. That's power. And it belonged to a woman in scrubs who made half of what Victoria's shoes cost. Later, Selena was discharged. She walked out of the hospital on her own 2 feet. Damon was on one side, her best friend, was on the other. Victoria was there too, but she wasn't walking to the car. She was standing at the nurse's station, waiting. Lena came around the corner with a chart in her hand. "Miss Brooks." Lena stopped. "Mrs. Ames, I want to say something to you, and I want you to hear all of it." Lena sat down the chart. She gave Victoria her full attention. "What I did to you was the worst thing I have ever done. I lied. I used my power to hurt an innocent person, and I did it because you looked at me like I was equal. And somewhere along the way, I had convinced myself that I was above everyone, that my money and my name made me more." Her voice was trembling, but she didn't stop. "My mother cleaned office buildings until her body broke. My father drove a taxi in the rain so I could go to college. They taught me to be humble, to be grateful, and I forgot every word they said." She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. "This is a formal letter to the hospital board. I am resigning from my seat, and in this letter I have told the truth, the full truth, about what I did to you, about why you were fired, about the lie I told." Lena's lips parted slightly. She hadn't expected this. "I have also recommended to Robert Tate that you be offered a full-time position back at Grady Piedmont, senior floor nurse, with back pay for every month you missed." "Mrs. Ames, you don't have to." "Yes, I do, because my daughter is alive because of you, and you almost weren't here because of me. I have to live with that, and the only way I can live with it is by telling the truth." She held out the envelope. Lena looked at it. She didn't take it. Instead, she looked at Victoria. "I don't need you to resign. I don't need back pay, and I don't need to come back to this hospital." Victoria's face fell. "What I need," Lena said, "is for you to go home. Look at your daughter. Remember how it felt when you thought you might lose her, and carry that feeling into every room you walk into for the rest of your life." She paused. That's my condition. Victoria's hand holding the envelope dropped to her side. Her chin trembled. I carried anger for time after you fired me. I won't lie about that. There were nights I wanted you to feel what I felt. To lose something. To be brought low. Her voice softened. But my mother told me something. She said, when someone punishes you for being good, that is not your burden. That is theirs. She looked at Victoria with those steady eyes, the same eyes, unchanged. You've been carrying it. I can see that now, and I think that's enough. Victoria couldn't stop the tears, and they fell down her face, and she didn't wipe them. She stood in the hallway of the hospital she used to rule, completely bare, completely human. Go home, Mrs. Ames. Be with your daughter. That's all that matters. Lena picked up her chart. She nodded once, and she walked down the hallway. Victoria watched her go, the scrubs, the quiet walk, the steady posture. She whispered something so softly that no one heard it. Thank you. Victoria went home. She sat in the kitchen. Selena was on the couch watching TV, laughing at something on her phone. Alive, breathing, whole. Damon sat down across from Victoria. He took her hand. What happened at the hospital? I tried to give her everything. She didn't want any of it. What did she want? Victoria looked at her husband. Her eyes were swollen. Her makeup was gone, and she looked older than she had. She wanted me to remember. Damon squeezed her hand. Then remember. Victoria drove to Mercy Hill Free Clinic. She didn't go inside. She parked across the street. She watched patients walk in and walk out. She watched Lena through the window, helping an elderly man with a cane, adjusting a child's bandage, smiling. Victoria opened her checkbook. She wrote a check. She walked to the front door. She slipped it under the door. The check was for $500,000, made out to Mercy Hill Free Clinic. There was no note, no name on the memo line, no foundation logo, just the money. And on the drive home, Victoria Ames did something she hadn't done. She rolled down the window. She felt the Atlanta wind on her face. She took a deep breath, and she started over. Some people use power to destroy. Others use grace to rebuild. Victoria had the title, the money, the name, but she had lost something far more valuable. She had lost her humanity. And Lena had nothing but her hands, her heart, and a promise her mother taught her. Treat every person like they matter, because they do. The proud are not punished by others. They are punished by the weight of their own choices, and the only relief is truth. Lena didn't need revenge. She didn't need Victoria's money or her apology or her resignation. She needed her to remember, because remembering is the beginning of change. If this story stayed with you, subscribe and hit that notification bell, because every story we tell carries a lesson, and the next one, it might be the one that changes how you see someone forever.